Gravy. You like white or brown?
What is it paired with?
Ketchup.
The fuck is wrong with you? You're a monster. I was thinking like mashed potatoes. If it's mashed potatoes, it's brown.
You don't like ketchup and mashed potatoes?
No, but I do like corn.
Corn and mashed potatoes?
Yeah,
corn with ketchup?
No, corn with mashed potatoes. I used to take corn and mix them in my mashed potatoes with no gravy and eat them that way.
Okay, so I guess the question I'm really trying to ask here is, what do you like with ketchup?
The normal stuff, like corn dogs and fries and shit.
Okay.
I don't think of ketchup as a sauce of any sort, really.
Ketchup is literally a sauce.
Yeah, but I don't like, I'm going to drizzle ketchup on things.
Drizzle.
Put drizzle my nizzle.
Welcome back to Rated Radio with your hosts, Rayburn Alexander and Shane Wyndham. Rayburn, this is our first official special on the merch shop. How do you feel about that?
Nervous, but excited at the same time.
Yeah, so things are going to be just a little different here. Not by much. And today we will be talking about greatest hits albums. But before we do that, our specials will always begin with us talking about our thoughts on this week's number one song on Billboard's Hot 100. Mm-hmm. And lucky for us, Mood by 24 Karat Golden, featuring Ian Dior, was number one, not only this week, but also the week before.
Ooh.
How do you feel about that song?
It's catchy. It's not something that I would call groundbreaking, earth-shattering, changes the game for music. It's catchy. It makes sense as why it's number one. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a long-lasting song.
Yeah, I would have to agree there. I rated this song a 3. It's got a catchy hook, but like almost everything about the song, it's repetitive. Mm-hmm. The simple melody and beat never actually change.
Yep.
At all. They simply remove some of the drum track at times to try achieving variation. The lyrical depth is lacking, and it's an obvious attempt to ride the Post Malone wave.
Yep.
The track would have easily gotten a 4 if the melody differed during the verses, but as it stands, I'm pretty sure this song is mostly at number 1 because it's called Mood. And everybody likes a whole ass mood right now.
Yeah, it's a mood. It's a vibe.
Hang on a second. Hello?
Hey, are you recording or something?
That's exactly what I'm doing, yeah. What's going on, Mom?
Nothing's going on. I was just curious about what you're doing with Jenny's stuff.
Hi, Annie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
We were just talking about Billboard's number 1 song for this week. What do you think about that song, Mom?
I don't know what that song is.
You wouldn't like it.
Okay, well, see? It's fine that I don't know it then, right?
That's correct.
Annie, this is going to be your episode.
My episode?
You're featured on this episode right now.
Oh, my Lord.
What do you want to say to the listeners?
Wait, you're recording now?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Yeah, we're recording.
I think I will need to be going, man.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Where were we?
We were talking about moods using the hip lingo.
Chair.
It's okay. I didn't think you farted. It's fine.
Good. There's something appealing about the cover or the album art or song art or whatever you'd call it for this track too on Spotify. It's got like a neon purple retro type vibe.
Those
but it also looks like crisscross of the current generation on
Really?
the album cover. Oh, I swear to God. Anyway, yeah, I've already forgotten this song, so shall we get into the show?
Yeah, let's talk about some more memorable songs. All right, I'm going to let you take the reins as far as leading me through the dark abyss that is this Greatest Hits special.
Sounds good. First thing we're going to do is go through a list, the first half of our list, which this week was songs you discovered on Greatest Hits albums. Mm-hmm. They don't have to be exclusive to the Greatest Hits album, but all mine are because I'm just that fucking extra.
Do you have a a 20 list too? Is
No,
it
it's
20
just
tracks?
10
Okay.
smart ass.
Just making sure.
Why don't you go ahead and start us out? What's first on your list?
First on my list is When I'm Gone by Eminem from his Curtain Call The Hits album from 2005. This was one of his more serious songs, not as serious as Stan, but definitely not as fun as his other songs that he's well known for. It's got a good message, and it hit a place in my heart that stayed there, so.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Yeah.
First up for me is Tell Lori I Love Her by Keith Whitley. This song wasn't made available to the public until after Whitley's death. The demo has a rather haunting quality to it and makes me think about how important it is that we aren't dismissive of anyone claiming to feel love. It's easy to think of young love as less serious than a love which has stood an aging test of time, but some people don't live long enough to experience more than young love, and our younger selves would gladly remind us not to be so pretentious, if only for that reason. Our feelings are valid at any age. Tomorrow isn't promised, so love deeply. Good song.
Yeah, cannot relate to the song because I don't know it, but maybe that'll change. Next on my list is Pop Rocks and Coke, a song that I can relate to because it's by Green Day on their International Super Hits album, which came out in 2001. Prime of me being a teenager. I can't do math. Don't ask me to. It's a good song. I liked it. I listened to it a lot when I had this album on CD. So,
Do you have a Pop Rocks and Coke story?
no, but
okay.
but I hear if
You said you could relate, so I thought maybe.
no. I mean, they say if you do it, you die. But
No.
yeah, I hear not.
Next up for me is You'll See by Madonna. Madonna may be the queen of pop, but it's her dark ballads which always held my attention. This is a song I listened to most often after Amy and I were over for good. I quickly made it a point to seem happy after the split. I was spending almost all of my free time socializing with a wide range of people and felt more fulfilled than I could ever remember feeling before that. The world opened up to a myriad of experiences I'd never have had if we stayed together. I was genuinely grateful for that, but I was also secretly heartsick. I'd go from partying my ass off in great company to crying alone at 4 a.m. hearing songs like this. Little did I know that happy but still sad sensation would be the new normal. Still is. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that. No matter where you are in the world, there are always going to be other places you'd also like to be. The trick is seeing that as a blessing instead of a curse. Next for you.
Again by Lenny Kravitz from his Greatest Hits album from 2000. This was popular, especially around this time. I mean, he did the cover of American Woman around this time, but I wasn't aware that this song was first featured on his Greatest Hits. So it deserves to be there. It's a good one. Don't have any personal stories other than it was on the radio and I didn't hate it. Is that a train?
I have no idea what that is.
The world's ending outside. We don't even
Yeah,
know.
something going on.
What's next on your list?
Next on my list is Unconditional Love by Tupac. Hearing Tupac takes me back to adolescence. This song in particular makes me happy to be who I was when I was back then. I came up around some of the most amazing people. It's funny, you hear stuff about kids having make-believe friends. I could never relate to that. I didn't need to pretend. My social circle was just that beautifully diverse. That's not to say it was all roses. There are people on my friends list to this day who've dealt drugs, been in gangs, turned tricks, survived gunshot wounds, served time in prison, etc. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't know something about most of that. Things got ugly in the shadows much faster than you'd think. For a long time, I lived my life afraid of an unforgiven bullet with my name on it. But a truck pulled over for me while I was out for a walk one day, and it was my old buddy Milkweed. Hearing about how our time apart had treated him made me realize that a lot of what we fear never comes to pass. Even if it does, fear isn't what we should be focused on. It's the good love in our lives that deserves our full attention. That's kind of where this song leads me when I hear it.
Next on my list is As Long As You Follow by Fleetwood Mac from their Greatest Hits album from 1988. Shane, you'll appreciate this because this is not a Nick song. It's a McVie song.
Yep.
And
She the shit.
It's one of those songs that I love Stevie Nicks. I mean, as stated in our past Fleetwood Mac episode, but I can agree that McVie's vocals and contribution to the band is underappreciated. So
At least you said it.
yeah,
Is that all you have to say about that one?
It's a good song.
It is a good song. Next up for me is Always by Bon Jovi. I briefly mentioned before this song reminding me of a childhood crush, and this was exactly the sort of thing I used to love listening to with her in mind, because it did, and still does, fill me with the same sort of hopeful warmth which her presence once did. You learn a lot about yourself via your childhood crushes, the conversations or scenarios you imagine happening are like a window into the heart of your ideal partner. I'd imagine being much older, saying the age I am now. She and I never failing to rebuild after the destruction, which comes from that natural tiring of one another. What I initially thought was a desire to forever feel the way I did anytime she looked at me turned out to also be the desire for staying power and passion and an understanding that love can't be effortless all the time. Learning to love her for who she was also taught me how I wanted to be loved. Am I grateful for that? Always. By Bon Jovi.
Next on my list, since we're keeping the ball rolling, This Charming Man by The Smiths from their Sound of the Smiths Greatest Hits album from 2008. I didn't find The Smiths until I was older. One of my favorites still being Asleep, that Shane likes to make fun of.
I don't actually know much Smiths. I would like to, so
Okay.
I like that song title.
This Charming Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good song. It was one of their more well-known after it was released, but it's a good one. There's some of their stuff is hit or miss. Some of it's a little lackluster, but when they have a good one, they got a good one.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's my pick.
My final for the first half is Friend of the Devil by Counting Crows. It hasn't escaped my attention that most of the women I've been close to have a deep appreciation for the Counting Crows. When I wasn't staying with Corey during those high school years, I used to spend a lot of time alone at the trailer with my bedroom windows open, listening to this group's debut release. I remember Cold Breezes and Heavy Rain being the best fit for that. The music kept me feeling warm and cared for, which is exactly how those ladies who love the Counting Crows have made me feel. I didn't know this song because of my aversion to most greatest hits albums, which if you don't know me, I don't tend to like most greatest hits albums. So it was first shared with me by someone I never got close enough to, didn't want to hurt her, knew that I would, but I can safely say that the songs she shares with me continue making me feel like I'm a lonely 16-year-old with the windows open and the music all but stopping time in its tracks. Just amazing, much like this tune.
You're so profound.
It's just thoughts.
I know, but I might be stroking your ego, but it's always just nice to hear them. So anyway, God.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I feel like I'm boring the hell out of you most of the time. Mostly, again, because we talked about this, it's not an engaging conversation. It's just me reading some shit that I wrote.
Most of the time, I'm at a place of, do I comment and possibly derail this conversation because I have a talent for doing? Or do I stick to the structure and say something brief and us move on so that we can get on other things?
Well, I like that after all this time, you're still thinking about whether or not you should, because it's a nice change of pace sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for our first half of our top 10 list.
Which brings us to my 3 picks for greatest hits albums.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
And this is kind of going to function as a my picks versus Rayburn's picks, but mostly we just wanted to talk about some greatest hits albums that we either wanted to hear or knew we loved.
Yeah.
So let's get to my shit.
Okay.
So I can be judged right at the outset
Okay.
for my horrible, horrible taste in music.
What was your first artist that you chose?
First up for me was the greatest hits album by Restless Heart. This was from 1998. This was my middle pick.
This was my bottom pick.
I gave it 15 fives.
I gave it 2.
Ouch.
Yeah.
My top track was Fast Moving Train.
My top track was Back to the Heartbreak Kid.
And my bottom track was No End to This Road.
And my bottom track was When She Cries. I will say about this artist, I was talking to my brother, Logan, this past week. I was telling him some of the greatest hits artists that were chosen. And when this artist's name came up, he lost his shit because he fucks with this. Who knew?
Who knew?
The only song that I knew by this artist was The Bluest Eyes in Texas, and that is only because of Boys Don't Cry.
Okay.
And it wasn't even their version that they used in the movie. So I did know something, but I didn't know you were going to pull this out when asked about greatest hits albums.
So here's the thing about my picks. Rayburn made hers first.
Yes, I did.
And then what I attempted to do was find genres of music which weren't already there and fill in those gaps with things that I either knew I loved, which this is one of those. And while you were talking over there, I'm sitting here thinking the fact that your bottom track was When She Cries, it will probably tell a lot of people that your taste in country is not exactly what like mine is, or most people who I know that love country.
Yes.
So I think we've got a ways to go to get you on board the country train.
Hey, who says there's a right way to listen to country, Shane?
I just mean, I'm going to talk about this right now. I was thinking recently about some of the studies that talk about taste. So when you're eating certain foods, you rarely will like something a lot the very first time you try it. And if you do, it's because it's pulling some other flavor from some other type of food that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
So it's more of a variation. But if you're trying something brand new, you're probably not going to enjoy it. And you'll have to try it about 3 times before it really starts to sink in. And I think a lot of that can pertain to music as well, which is why we talk about opinions constantly changing.
Yes.
And Codes talked about how my taste is quite broad for the most part. It only got that way because I listen to so much different music all the time. So I think everyone is capable, and it's not to say that anyone's taste is bad. It's just sometimes I don't think it's as experienced.
We know how experienced you are.
Well, there was a point in time where I didn't like a lot of this stuff,
Yeah.
Like I would have been that same person. It's got 2 5s from me,
Yeah, I'm that person.
It was supposed to be a compliment, but of course it sounded like an asshole thing coming from me.
I will say that Logan's standout from this artist is That Rock Won't Roll.
That's a good one.
So just to give you a little bit of information on Logan and your other cousin, your relationship makes sense. So
I wanted to say this is my kind of country. It's got a few new tracks on it, and even though the first track kept this from a perfect rating, I still maintain you'd be hard-pressed to find a best-of country disc that reaches these heights.
And the short thing that I want to say about it is I got country boy band vibes full of love ballads.
Yep. 90s love ballad country.
Yep.
This is my sweet spot.
Okay. Moving on to your next album of choice.
Which was one I had never heard, but I've been wanting to dip my toes in the water a little more, and I figured what better way than to go with a greatest hits album.
Which I had heard this album, so I was very surprised that you chose it because this doesn't seem like something that you would choose.
Yes.
Pleasantly surprised.
I think I don't give off the right vibes all the time. I went with the Ramones' greatest hits from 2006. This was, surprisingly enough, my top pick.
This was my middle for Shane's selections.
I gave it 13 5s.
I gave it 5 5s.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah. For 20 tracks.
My top track was Rock and Roll High School.
Oddly enough, I thought I was going to go with one of their top songs. Rock and Roll High School was second or third, but I ended up going with something that I hadn't heard enough of, and it grew on me. Baby, I Love You.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not on this one, but I will recommend again, I Want You Around by the Ramones. It's a great track. My bottom track was Pet Sematary.
My bottom track was We're a Happy Family.
So my notes here, this has that gritty, energetic punk sound down to an art, but the lyrics and melodies are a little too basic in places for my liking. Tends to sound samey the way Beach Boys do. Yeah, if you're just looking for something angsty and fun, this is a good bullet to the brain. This album is good. I wouldn't say it's great as far as the greatest hits albums go. Why are you over there dying when is it the Beach Boys thing? Did I dull your sparkle again?
No, you didn't dull my sparkle. You just, when we're on the same page, it's always just such a nice breath of fresh air. And sometimes I can't believe that we're so spot on because I said this is the epitome of punk, almost reminiscent of Beach Boys. Very recognizable vocals. You know when you're listening to the Ramones. But the fact that you got the Beach Boys vibe, and I thought it was so far out of left field. I'm like, he's going to tear me apart for saying this.
No, and it's not that they sound like the Beach Boys. It's song structure and the fun nature of it.
Like
Yeah, it's strange.
Barbara Ann and Rock and Roll High School, like it makes
Yeah.
sense.
The looping lyrics, and it's not the most deep thing you're ever going to hear.
Mhm.
It's got some Beach Boys vibes. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I got it. I'm on the same page with you. But moving on to our next artist.
Which was David Gray, his greatest hits album from 2007. This was actually my bottom pick.
This is my top.
I gave it 12 fives.
I gave it 5 5s.
My top track was a tie between Alibi and You're the World to Me.
It will always be This Year's Love.
Yeah.
You say that in agreeance, or like, yeah,
It's-
this bitch would pick This Year's
It's
Love.
a good song. That's probably why people know him if they know him. He's got so much to offer.
Yeah, and I've found that out. I heard This Year's Love from that Umbrella Academy show.
Oh.
So that's when I got introduced. And the fact that when you pick this, I'm like, who the hell is David Gray? It didn't click. I loved this song. So I was like, oh, this is what Elsie has to offer. And I really dug it.
My bottom track was The Other Side. People can hate me, but I want more from this instrumentation. It's a good song, but I wanted more from the instrumental.
My bottom track was Caroline.
Okay. I don't think I gave that one a 5 if it makes you feel better.
It does. It makes me feel a little better. I said that this album had Bob Dylan-esque vocals with modern guitar, and I thoroughly enjoyed the mellow piano.
Most might not realize how much more there is to this artist, and this album's a good introduction. The comparison's not perfect, but people who like James Blunt should like David Gray. The 2 4s that I gave here are strong 4s. This is another greatest hits album with new tunes, so it's a shame the original version of Shine couldn't be used here, but the live version still got a 5 from me. I like what David Gray does.
Mm-hmm.
It surprised me that this was at the bottom for me, but it was mostly just the number of tracks.
Yeah.
You had more tracks and a stronger showing from the other artists.
Yeah.
Actually, I gave more 4s to the Ramones than anybody, but their purchase value, it's more bang for your buck on that outing. Anything more to add to that little bit?
Nothing more to add. I'm ready to move on to my artists.
All right, well, we'll get there. I wanted to say that going back to the Ramones' greatest hits, that album should have been like 13 or so tracks. Otherwise, I wholeheartedly recommend all 3 of these albums as standouts in the realm of greatest hits. That's all I had. Sorry
All
for
right.
making it sound like there was some grand thing happening here. Let's move on to the break.
All right.
So no plugs or recommendations today. What we're doing for specials during our breaks is we have allowed the ability to ask each other any question you want. One question,
Just one.
any question. Did you think up a question?
I did.
I'll let you go first.
Shane, who would you want to write the soundtrack to your life other
That's-
than yourself?
That's a big question.
Yeah. Bang, bang.
One person?
One artist.
Or one artist? Jesus. Not Jesus.
I want Jesus to write the soundtrack to my life.
Oh, fuck. Okay. I mean, I guess it's going to end up being either Sean Mullins or John Mayer.
Got it.
I don't know that I need to elaborate anymore. Do you have an answer to that question?
This isn't about me. Is that your question? You get to ask one question.
Let's say the other person can answer.
Oh, well, that's not fair. I didn't come with an answer.
Yeah, you felt all good. That didn't even go through your head until now that I might turn it around on you.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought that far ahead. Can I say a couple of artists? Does it have to be?
I said 2. Ding, 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 ding.
I didn't do that when you were thinking.
I know. But I don't go when your non-existent perfect ratings come into play.
Early Fleetwood Mac would probably be one. You know me, I like wind, flightiness. I think I like the idea of having Fleetwood Mac write the soundtrack to my life because I'm not flighty. I wish I could be flighty sometimes and I could just go with the flow and...
Sometimes you are. Give yourself credit.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it because I don't feel that way. I feel entirely too structured.
It's because we just survived 2020.
Yeah. My other artist might be Maybe Lana Del Rey, for probably the same reason. She knows what she's about. She has a strength over her sexuality. Like, she knows what she's about. She uses it, and she makes no excuses for doing it. And I wish I could...
doing it.
I wish I could be so transparent in standing my ground. You know what I mean? Why are you laughing?
Just the way you paused between trans and parent. It was like...
Transparent.
I wish I could be trans.
Parent. It was not that long of a pause.
I wish I could be trans.
So
you need a shirt now. I wish I could be trans.
All right, high class white trash.
Hey, don't compare high class white trash with trans people. Trans people are beautiful people.
Oh, way to dig yourself out of the hole.
High class white trash are just ghetto as fuck.
Okay.
Let us be. My question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite cologne or perfume? Do you even care about such things?
Not as much as you. I do have a selection. I have a fancier cologne. I couldn't tell you what it is. The
way you said that makes it sound like you wear the cologne.
I mean, perfume.
Oh, okay.
Men's cologne is wonderful. I'll say what cologne I love blue to wear. Kenneth Cole Reaction.
Okay.
I like that. But I use a number of things. Mostly not expensive, because that's not a priority to me. It's like shoes or jewelry. Not a priority to me. I'm not going to spend massive amounts of money on cologne, shoes, or perfume, shoes, and jewelry. It's just not going to happen. But I know you have an answer, because you're an avid cologne wearer.
Yeah.
What is your favorite?
Can I say that I'm sometimes afraid that someone's going to go into my restroom, because mine is the guest bathroom?
Yes.
And my colognes are all stored around the toilet shelf. I'm scared someone's going to knock it down and shit's going to break everywhere, because there's a lot of money in those shelves.
So you obviously are one that will drop some money on cologne.
And perfume. Big on both. Cologne-wise, I like Lacoste mostly. Mm-hmm. If I had to put anything above the colognes that Lacoste puts out, like Essential or the Red Style and Play cologne, those are great. I could probably ramble off like a top 10 list of women's perfumes and shit as well. But if I had to pick one, Tommy Hilfiger Dreaming.
Okay. All right.
All of that is quite costly.
I used to wear Clinique Happy.
It's a good one.
I have not bought any more. I think I have 4 or 5 different perfumes.
I don't actually know what the lady version of Happy smells like. I have the men's because it finally stopped costing $120 a bottle and came down to like $40.
What I will say is I dig on perfumes that have fruit senses rather than flowers.
Okay.
So I lean more towards that. But at the same time, you're talking to a girl that doesn't wear deodorant. And there's
not sure how I feel about that.
Okay, most people will be like,
you're not smelly, I guess that's the thing.
Most people will be like, oh, you don't wear deodorant. Unless I'm going to be outside, I don't really sweat. And I don't have smells coming from my armpits. So I don't wear deodorant. I will put on a dash of perfume ever so often, but literally 90% of the time I'm not wearing deodorant, and I don't have to. And I know people in my social circle that hate me because of it, because they have to. My mom's like that, and my sister are like that.
I get turned off by certain deodorants.
Mm-hmm.
Can
you elaborate?
I would like to elaborate, but I'm somewhat afraid to, because if you're talking about scents, you're moving more into the realm of sexual turn-ons. Mm-hmm. And that sort of thing. I do like certain body odors, but not like heavy body odors or anything. And so deodorants and stuff tend to cover that up to a degree that's not pleasant. There's some that I like.
If I have to wear a deodorant, the deodorant that I am wearing is Love, Beauty, and Planets deodorant, and it's the coconut.
I was going to say, my wife has recently bought some coconut deodorant, and I cannot stand it.
Really?
I hate.
I wonder if it's the same kind. Well, it's a good thing I don't wear deodorant, so just don't make me sweat and we won't have a problem.
I'm not trying to fuck you, so
your goal is my armpits.
Your goal is not to turn me on, and I'm definitely not sniffing your armpits. This was interesting. Yes. Shall we move on to the second half of our show?
I'm sitting here thinking that we're going to ask music questions and you pull out some shit about cologne and perfume.
Oh, figure if it was anything, I was curious to know.
Well, I'm glad to know that nothing's off limits.
especially in the specials.
Yeah.
So if there's anything you would like for us to ask listeners, feel free to send us questions, however inappropriate they may be, and we just might motherfucking ask them on the next special.
We just might.
Moving along. You know, going back to the trying things multiple times before you really have an appreciation of them or an understanding of your opinion, I think that's why I'm always so baffled by people whose opinion is just immediately cemented.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get like that? I feel like my shit is always in fluctuation,
Mm-hmm.
you know, sometimes for better or worse. And sometimes you end up hating something and then you love it again further
Yeah.
down the line. And
Yep.
like, this is cool to talk about and rate music and all this stuff. And I feel like most of it continuously holds true. But there's just some times where I don't understand how you're just, fuck that. I hate it.
Well, I don't know if it's the same for you, but rating music is cool. The whole concept of it is cool. But at the same time, I'm happy to just talk about it. Like, I don't even have to have or feel the need to rate music as long as we're talking about it and we're talking about how it makes us feel, at least at this point in our lives. That's the thing that I really enjoy doing on the podcast.
Yeah, I would agree. I think some of the trouble that I've had with other music shows that you can listen to is it is coming from that perspective that's critic driven.
Mm-hmm.
The my farts don't smell,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's like what I say goes,
Yeah.
and that's the end of it. And I would never presume that for anyone other than myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to give you a lot of shit
Mm-hmm.
about your tastes and some of the things you like, but that's what you like. That's what gives you pleasure. I don't want to rob you of that just by telling you that some of it sucks.
I knew it was going to be a backhanded compliment. I knew it. And I was sitting here thinking, oh, I don't mean to tell you your opinion sucks either. I'm glad I didn't say anything because it does.
I like Nightwish. What are you going to do? Anyway, this is your turn at the helm with your 3 greatest hits picks.
It is.
What we got?
Well, to start off, we have Al Green's greatest hits album from 1975. This was bottom out of my pick.
This was also my bottom out of your picks.
I gave it 3 5s.
3 5s? Okay.
Yes.
I gave it 1 5.
Oh, okay. All right. My top track is Let's Stay Together.
I Can't Get Next to You.
And my bottom track was Look What You've... Oh, sorry. All I wrote was Look What You've For Me. I left out...
Maybe it's Look What You've Done For Me or something. I don't know.
Look What You've Done For Me. Look, I can make mistakes too. Apparently, I got distracted. So why are you surprised that I had 3 5s?
It's a greatest hits album. It is only 10 songs, but I would have thought
I would
you would
have
have gotten more mileage. But again, we've talked about 5s not meaning the same thing for you that they do for me.
a lot of 4s.
My bottom track was half the damn album.
Okay. All right. You're entitled to your opinion.
I'm getting high energy for a second. I'm just messing around. So I
I'm
didn't,
just messing around.
I did not give any 2s or 1s to this album. But I will say this greatest hits experience cemented my joke opinion into a reality. I do not care for Al Green.
Okay.
This stuff is stuffy, dull, forgettable, like elevator music in a bad horror movie. I also just don't enjoy the man's voice. It's not that this is bad so much as it is average and dated sounding. Sorry if you're a fan. I just don't get it. I do enjoy Simply Beautiful, which was not on this album. Wasn't here. So 3s and 4s are mostly what this album consists of. What I said sounded really harsh.
No.
So let me...
No. Stop. Don't.
No, I want to because I did not hate this music. I was just kind of bored by this music.
Okay. I'm not attacked. I'm not at all surprised at what you're saying. I kind of thought that this would be how you would fall for Al Green. The good thing about that, just like what I said about Nightwish in a previous episode, what you say is not going to change my appreciation for Al Green, and what I say is not going to change your appreciation for Nightwish. I enjoy Al Green. I enjoy his vocal stylings, and I like that I can turn him on and leave him on. That it's not...
I can turn him on and leave the room.
This is Soulful Sounds of Greatness for me. Good dinner party playlist artist. And regardless of if you like it or not, sometimes you need background noise. And knowing that you're not going to get anything too complicated, you know what to expect out of Al Green, he's comfortable to me.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I like him. And like I've said in previous episodes, he was my introduction to other artists like him, not exactly like him, but around this time. And I have a level of appreciation for him because he opened my eyes to newer genres of music that my mom did not influence Al Green in me. Barry White, Teddy Pendergrass, things like that, she did. But Al Green was my artist. So the fact that you don't appreciate him is fine.
Also, the fact that I don't appreciate him is the minority view. I did some research on this album and my hopes were pretty high going in, because even though I knew I hadn't really heard much Al Green that I appreciated, I saw that some of his music is known or thought of as, you know, some of the best soul around. And this Greatest Hits album is supposed to be one of the best albums of all time.
It just didn't resonate with you.
Where does that come from?
It's a personal preference. Consistent. That's the thing that I took away from this album, is it had standouts like Let's Stay Together, which holds a level of nostalgia for me. But now that I'm older, Love and Happiness actually resonates with me a lot more. Like I said, you know what you're going to get. He's not going to do anything to push the envelope of let me do something weird. And with this being a Greatest Hits album, it's a collection of his works over a period of time. And there's no real difference. It's pretty consistent throughout.
What's interesting is that I thought this artist was making music earlier than what he did.
Yeah.
A good example of that is we recently covered The Temptations.
Yes.
And all of the music that we covered by The Temptations sounds newer. It came out before this Al Green stuff. And I thought his music, maybe it was just influential of what groups like The Temptations were doing. And that's why. But he wasn't. He was later. And I just don't get it. And I'm looking forward to figuring out if there's more stuff there, like I Can't Get Next to You and Simply Beautiful. We'll see.
Okay.
This Greatest Hits album didn't do it for me.
Okay. And that's fine. Moving on to our next album. Hopefully this will do something for you. It's Queen's Greatest Hits from 1981. This was my top album.
This was my middle pick.
I gave it 12 fives.
There was a little confusion.
Yes, there was.
So the thing is, when this album was released, it had a differing track list depending on which country you were in, because they put out the singles from those particular countries, which was different from country to country.
Yep.
The track list changed in 1985, and I originally listened to the 1985 version.
Poor
Anyway,
Shane had to listen to Queen twice, but really it's all the same stuff.
So depending on which version, it's 11 or 12 fives. So yes, it definitely did something for me.
Okay, sorry. I didn't know you said your number.
It was my middle.
Okay. And I said I gave it 12 fives. You gave it 12 as well?
Or 11.
Okay,
The
depending.
version you rated, I gave 12 as well.
My top track is Don't Stop Me Now.
Fat Bottom Girls.
My bottom track is Flash.
There's a lot of silence that just got cut right now. I'm still over here. I'm a little speechless. Seven Seas of Rye. Flash was your bottom track?
Yeah.
All right, I won't dwell on it.
I only gave 2 threes this whole album. Flash was one of them, only because I love the song, but it's just so drawn out. It's to the Flash Gordon movie. I mean, it's the title song to the Flash Gordon movie, so it's got that long intro, and then you finally get to it. The lyrics just aren't
they're not
up to par.
They're not super interesting or anything. The music is very interesting, and I think that's what gets me. So
The intro reminds me of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And
I only gave 1 3. The rest were 4s and 5s. Did you have anything you wanted to say about this?
Yes, powerhouse of vocal talent. Love the extra mile taken to achieve vision. It pays off. Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, correct myself. Apparently it was the 1992 version that I initially rated. I'm not one to pretend everything Queen did was gold, but I do like this collection. It overstays its welcome a bit, and I found myself wanting different songs picked through some of the second half, but it's definitely an above average greatest hits album. With regard to the one that you rated, it was roughly the same. As far as ratings go. It added Bohemian Rhapsody and Flash, which were both 5s for me, while cutting Body Language and I Want to Break Free.
I was just going to say, I was sad that I picked the album that didn't have those 2 songs because those would have been 5s for me.
Yeah, Body Language got a 4, but I like I Want to Break Free. I wish they'd have kept I Want to Break Free and cut 7 Seas of Rye, and that would have made it a solid release for me.
Mm-hmm. Would you have given it a perfect rating?
No, it would have been 4s and 5s, but it would have been 13 5s that way out of 17 tracks, which is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Especially considering that they had multiple greatest hits CDs.
Albums, yeah. And especially that double disc big one later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I think riffs off of their other greatest hits collections, just compiling. Their second greatest hits CD is also a banger.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure every parent I knew owned that CD.
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, is that all you have to say about Queen's greatest hits album?
I would like to talk more about the artist, but I think we need to save that until we actually cover that artist.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait to do that. Hopefully it'll happen one day.
So what was your final greatest hits album?
Eminem, his Curtain Call, The Hits from 2005. This was my runner-up.
This was my top album.
Not at all surprised.
I was.
You were?
A little bit.
Okay. I gave it 11 5s.
I gave it 15 5s.
My top track is Stan, the original.
Lose Yourself.
And my bottom track is Intro.
It's Intro.
Yeah. So what I want to say about this album and Eminem as an artist, he's an extremely clever lyricist and even better in executing his works. Don't have a lot to say. You either love him or you hate him. I hate that it's that way, but damn good collection. So.
Okay. So the intro got a 2 from me, and the very last track got a 4, which I think the last track was the live version of Stan with Elton John.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.
Yeah, not my favorite thing.
It was a like a PR move, because right before that, he had said a lot of homophobic things that he was getting a lot of flack for, and I guess they thought to remedy the situation, he would perform with Elton John at the MTV Movie Awards.
I could say a lot about the consciousness raising of the era, and how we were outgrowing so many things back then.
Yeah,
and still are.
Mm-hmm.
But it was much easier to just be an idiot making offensive jokes, no matter what. But Eminem's always walked a fine line between serious lyricist, musician, and comedian. And those, I think they are really highlighted here for me in a way that I don't appreciate. There are a lot of 5s here, and I appreciate the inclusion of the new tracks. But if I'm being honest, I think this album was a mistake. It's the most predictable greatest hits album, filled mostly with fun, cheesy side of Eminem's songwriting. It makes a meme of one of rap's greatest talents. Do yourself a favor, hear the albums in full, the way they were meant to be heard. Only peep this for the new tracks. My fear is that kids coming across greatest hits albums, discovering an artist, some never go further than the greatest hits.
Yeah.
And if they walk into this with Eminem, they never find that side of Eminem that really has kept me in love with what he does for so long. It's not these tracks for the most part.
But it's what made him. It's what got him critical acclaim.
It's the radio hits. I wouldn't say it's what got him critical acclaim. The critical acclaim is the rest of the albums.
Well, but like with My Name Is and what was the other one?
True story, to highlight my point, when Eminem first hit with My Name Is, I didn't like it.
Okay.
I refused to listen to the LP for a while because I despised that song. I thought, okay, white rapper finally hits the scene and he makes something that's this. I didn't know until someone actually sat me down and made me listen to that LP, which I don't know. There's some good variety on here, and the new tracks are great, but clearly it almost got a perfect rating from me as well. I'm sorry that I keep interrupting you.
No, you're fine. Maybe I'm disagreeing because I have an appreciation for funny and semi-serious white rappers. I mean, I have a appreciation for Little Dicky. You don't share the same appreciation, and that's fine. Maybe, because obviously Stan was my favorite. I love his more serious stuff. I love, like, Toy Soldiers. His more serious stuff is really, really good, but it's nice to see that he has a variety. He just doesn't have to do the hard stuff. He doesn't have to just do the serious stuff. he can be fun and make a fool out of himself and other people that at the time were fucking ridiculous, other celebrities. And it's nice to see somebody see what we're seeing as the public. Someone like me seeing the same things that I'm seeing can make a platform to make fun of the ridiculousness that we see every day. So it's nice to be able to see that and at the same time know that he has talent in other stylings of rap. You know what I mean? But he's clever throughout.
Yeah, I think he is clever. I mean, and these aren't bad songs. I think a lot of it strikes a similar chord, and it's more, I think, maybe of what you appreciate about Eminem versus what I appreciate about Eminem.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's just
different.
You know, if there was a second disc here and it was all of that super technical drive you into the ground.
I think you're disappointed because you wanted a greatest hits album of his more serious works that you appreciate.
I wouldn't have minded the variety, but I didn't feel like there was a lot of variety here. It's all of the stuff that people want to make fun of him for and meme him for.
Well, he says the hits.
He
says
does.
the hits in the title. He told you.
I'm just stating my opinion.
It's all right. I'm not attacking you for your opinion.
This again was my top pick.
Yes, that's true. It was still a good album. So it's okay that we disagree. In the end, I think we both can agree. We liked the album. We like Eminem as an artist. And I think that's that.
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know if you did any math on this, but I did because I was curious.
Yeah, I did all the math.
I think we would have been closer to a real battle if I had liked Al Green a little more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
I think the same could probably be said of you with Restless Heart. But yeah, I swept.
For you.
For me.
I gave nothing under a 4.0 for my artists. And your artists, for me, the highest sat at a 3.8 and the lowest sat at a 3.1. So I swept.
Yeah.
For me.
So the other thing is I didn't expect the Ramones to do all that well. I had listened to one of their CDs, and actually the first time I went through this greatest hits CD, I didn't do so well. I've changed my ratings for like 5 or 6 of these songs. That very last track, Warthog, first time I heard it, I was like, oh, I really don't like this song. And before I was done, I just wanted to hear it again and again.
That's how they get you, man.
Jesus. Punk Jesus.
Punk Jesus. I will say, out of the artists that we've covered in the punk genre, like we covered the Clash. What was another punk artist? We covered more than just the Clash.
Oh, and dude, I don't know what you're about to say, but if you're trying to say that the Ramones were better than the Clash somehow,
I know you're going to disagree.
Oh,
That's fine. They're more my style of punk.
They're fun. They're energetic.
Yeah,
it's really good music.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can argue that.
The Clash just has this expansive,
I know,
change the nature of what punk is.
All right, Sandinista, calm down. You ready to get on to the second half of our list?
I am.
All right, I'll go first. My first pick of top 10 singles released on Greatest Hits albums is Catch My Breath by Kelly Clarkson. This was from her Greatest Hits Chapter 1 album from 2012. I have always appreciated Kelly Clarkson and the vocal range that she has since she's been on American Idol. It was literally the only season that I ever watched religiously. But I found out that a person that I am friends with on Instagram through a mutual friend, his name is Blue Sanders, he helped write this song. He's a musical artist and he writes for people. I just didn't know that this was one of the people that he helped write for. And he had a hand in writing Catch My Breath by Kelly Clarkson. So
didn't she lose?
No, she won.
Okay.
Justin Guarini lost.
I don't know why I was thinking it was like Clay Aiken or something.
That's season 2. Clay Aiken was against Ruben Studdard.
I will say, I've never done a deep dive of Kelly Clarkson's music, but what I have heard, I've appreciated way, way more than I thought I was going to. So whether it's Dark Side or that live version of Beautiful Disaster.
Yeah. Me and your sisters listened to a lot of Kelly Clarkson. And you were old and out of the house and running around working and doing God knows what, getting into God knows what trouble. We listened to a lot of Kelly Clarkson, sang a lot of karaoke to Kelly Clarkson. And that's probably why I have such an appreciation for her. So
I was on the grind.
Yeah.
Hustle.
Yeah. I'm over here with my thumb up my ass singing karaoke with your sisters. Just having fun doing nothing.
You say that from time to time.
Having my thumb up my ass?
Mm-hmm. Is that something you do?
I'll never tell.
Okay. Just trying to think, like, could I even get my thumb back there?
Hey, you gotta want it bad enough.
Clearly, I've not tried.
Your next pick.
For me was Against the Wall by Steve Perry. So, this is a great song. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. But my story is about a different song on the album called Oh Sherry. I really like that song, but I've often gotten some strange looks when rocking out to it because my great aunt's name is Sherry. Apparently, that connection is just one that certain people can't not make. And the troll in me loves that fact, making me like the song even more. By the way, this is Journey's ex-lead singer, and their greatest hits album is probably the greatest hits album ever, in my opinion.
Had you not set the rule of no double disc albums, we would have had a lot more to choose from, but we would have done a hellacious amount of work.
And that's what's funny to me is Journey Essential, and I'm old enough that Journey Greatest Hits is what was big in my time.
What does the cover look like?
I think it's pretty much the same as Journey's Greatest Hits or Journey's Greatest Hits 2.
How many times are we going to talk about the age difference between us?
I just think it's interesting.
It's
There's
like,
so much that's happened.
We're two different generations, but somehow find a way to cohabitate. And
we live at a time when, just 100 or 200 years ago, 400 or 500 years could go by between, humans living on the planet, and they wouldn't have felt that things were as different at certain points in time as you and I do. Mm-hmm. Think about where the world was when you were born and where it is now.
Yeah. I don't want... Can I not, though?
We used to see movies with, like, giant home phones that had no cords, and you thought, that's never gonna happen. Mm-hmm. Now there are fucking supercomputers in our pockets.
Mm-hmm. Everything is at your fingertips. No more scrolling through Rolodexes to find shit. And yeah, everything's so much more accessible nowadays. Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, but it's like, I keep thinking that we're going to become those people that like tell your son and your daughter, back in my day, you used to have to walk around with a phone with a cord on it. Now, most home phones are non-existent. I mean, let's be real. Both of us weren't well off. So we probably still had phones with fucking rotary dials.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know I did.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things that it's crazy. And it's crazy to think that the 90s was 30 years ago, which to us, that was the 70s. And now when you get your ID checked, they look for the one. Can you fucking believe that?
Yeah.
Isn't that sad?
That's what happens. Time goes by. You just keep getting older.
I know.
That fact is never going to change.
I just exploded so many brains with that statement.
Well, for me, it's just keeping the focus on the fact that I get to be alive. Mm-hmm. I get to be alive at a time that the majority of our species that came before us would have killed to live in. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to let that make me less miserable.
Yeah.
Because we have a tendency to make one another miserable.
Mm-hmm. Any reason to make yourself a little less miserable is all right by me.
Yeah. What's next on your list?
Next on my list is Mary Jane's Last Dance by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers from their Greatest Hits album in 2008. I did not know that this song was first featured on a Greatest Hits album because all I had known was his hits, and I assumed that it had come prior, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out that this was featured on a Greatest Hits album for the first time. And it's one of those that is really, really catchy, but it's got an even more kind of haunting music video once you've seen the music video. So it's just one that sticks with me. We've said in past episodes when we covered Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers how much we really enjoy them, and I think that this song does not disappoint.
Their Greatest Hits album always kind of pissed me off. Because
that is what you asked for.
It makes perfect sense. I love their Greatest Hits CD. The problem for me is I always wanted that one extra track on the Greatest Hits album. Okay. I wanted his solo hit, You Don't Know How It Feels.
To be me.
Yeah, always wanted that on there, but it's not there, so.
Sorry about your life.
Wah, wah.
And now he's dead, so I hate to twist the knife a little, but he's dead now. So.
He made a lot of good music.
Yeah, he did. What's your next pick?
Next for me is I Lost It by Kenny Chesney. Not sure if I've told this story before, but I've long referred to this track as the Animal Song. Someone I know once thought part of the words in this song's chorus referred to an animal, and I'm pretty sure we made so much fun of her that the chorus wound up completely rewritten to go as follows. No one can make me cry, make me laugh, make me smile, or drive me mad like a cheetah. It's like a curse that is the cure, better or worse, one thing's for sure, it's a gorilla, and I don't know what I'd do with an ostrich. Good luck unhearing that when you listen to this song from now on. What's next for you?
Pink Cashmere by Prince. This is from his The Hits 1 from 1993.
Pretentious motherfucker. The Hits 1,
One.
y'all. More to come. Hold tight.
Don't
But
you-
he was right, so
don't you be talking about Prince.
I love Prince. Get off my job.
Okay.
Talk.
Get off mine. It's one of those songs that I slept on. It happens.
Is it a pillow-like song? Makes you want to go to sleep?
No, it makes me want to do other things. Pink Cashmere.
Changing Tides by The Fray is my next pick. Let me state the obvious. This Hits album is a train wreck, which should not exist. The problem isn't that the music's not good, it's that the albums this stuff's pulled from are just so damn listenable in their entirety. I don't know why you had to make this. Anyway, an EP for the new songs would have been my recommendation. This song reminds me of just how hard the year we all just survived actually was. Some of us were shut up in our homes for half of the year or more, nothing but routine to look forward to. I've seen so many people talk about how grateful they were to be single because their previous relationship couldn't have endured this lockdown. I tip my hat to those couples who've made it through. I also wonder how any single person got by on so little physical interaction with other human beings. 2020 was traumatic for many of us, so don't be so hard on yourself when that shit doesn't just heal overnight.
Hey, did you hear Ingrid Michaelson's Greatest Hits album and the phrase Greatest Hits album have the same name?
No?
It's called the Grey's Anatomy soundtrack.
What? You're trying to make a joke here and I don't understand.
Literally all the music featured on Grey's Anatomy is either The Fray or Ingrid Michaelson. Because remember, that's how she got her start.
I might have to watch that show at some point because I like both of those artists.
It's not a bad show. We're watching it right now. We're late, but yeah, I tried to make a joke. It doesn't make sense to tell the joke to someone that doesn't get it. But for those of you that get it, that was funny, right?
There's a video of me on Facebook singing Look After You by The Fray. I was playing and singing it in a garage with some folks, and I've continually tried to download the video so that I can post it myself, and I can't manage to do it.
Do you know who originally posted
Yeah,
it?
I do.
You don't
So,
think they still have it?
I don't want to ask. It's one of those things where you're afraid, like, if you ask, they'll take it down for some reason. Be like, oh, I forgot that was up there. This is 10 years later, you know?
Mm.
It's more than 10 years. I'm old.
You could have gone without saying. My next pick
Tell us your next pick before I die from old age.
is Tall, Tall Trees by Alan Jackson. This was from his Greatest Hits collection from 1995. I was not aware of this song. As you know, I was not an avid country music listener until Blue entered my life. And his favorite country music artist is probably Alan Jackson.
Way to go, Blue.
Mm.
That's a good pick.
And this is one of his favorite songs by Alan Jackson. I won't mention the other song, but I'm sure you can guess what it is.
Something sexual.
It's Chattahoochee.
You're like banging the mic with your voice over there.
No, it's Chattahoochee, but he...
Man, Chattahoochee. I
I
wish
know all the words to Chattahoochee now because of Blue.
I wish y'all had been old enough to be at the bowling alley on karaoke nights. My friend Matt used to come to the bowling alley. He doesn't have a lisp, but he kind of talks like he does.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always wearing like these flowy like Hawaiian shirts.
Okay.
He just reminds me of someone that I grew up with in the trailer park.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that vibe,
Yeah.
you know?
That
And
high-class white trash vibe.
Yes.
Got it.
And Chattahoochee was his karaoke go-to, but he didn't sing. So he'd like rap it. The strangest thing. And I'm telling you, anyone who was there knows exactly what I'm talking about. Once you've heard it, you cannot unhear it. It will stick with you for the rest of your life.
I could totally see how you could rap it, though.
And he did.
He does it. Alan Jackson doesn't really sing in that song. It's kind of like talk.
Once you've heard
Okay.
Madamus rap this, then
Okay.
you know Alan Jackson is singing in that song.
If he's listening, send us a video. We'll put it up on our mentions list.
God, if there were videos of some of the things.
What's your last
pick?
pick?
Oh my God. This isn't my last pick.
Oh, okay.
So let's go through my last two.
I still have one.
Okay, well, let me do this and then I'll have one after. You're confusing me.
Why don't you just go?
My God.
And I just did Tall Tall Trees. We're right. Then
Okay.
you, then me, then you.
Well, you said your last pick and that threw me off.
Okay.
I'm an idiot. It's fine. You're an idiot too. We're
It's
both
fine.
fine.
You're an idiot. I'm an idiot.
Dumpster fire of people that we are in this room right now. So my ninth pick is Please Forgive Me by Bryan Adams. Strange one. I was at a birthday party being held in the courtyard of an apartment complex near UNT campus one night. I just started seeing Short Megan. She lived there around some of her friends, some of whom also had birthdays in the same week. So, big party. Lots of drinking and smoking and obnoxious music. I'm wine drunk in the middle of this madness, playing chess of all things with my friend Ralph. My girlfriend's wandered off into an apartment with a group of guys. I'm asking no questions. The music suddenly changes to this slow ballady shit, the Please Forgive Me by Bryan Adams. Someone offers me raw cookie dough, and I take the offer because there are pecans in the stuff, and I'm obsessed with pecans. I told you this was weird. Stick with me.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I look up from the game and momentarily lock eyes with someone I feel like I've seen a million times before, but never actually met. We don't meet that night, but she eventually goes on to become one of those loves you just never quite get over.
Mm-hmm.
I go on to crack a damn tooth on a pecan shell and lose the game. The music goes back to what it was before. Another slow song never gets played. And more than a decade later, I still find myself thinking about that moment in time.
Are you
No
sure?
idea.
Are you sure it wasn't a fever dream?
Yes.
Okay.
This
Because it sounds like a
this
fever
is
dream.
no, this is something that actually happened.
Okay.
And
This is your life.
yeah, this is my life. It didn't feel real. It felt surreal. It was one of those moments in time where you feel like the universe is trying to tell you something. And I have a really bad habit of not listening to the universe when it's trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
I did get my tooth fixed eventually. Anyway,
Yeah.
what's your next pick?
My last pick is Changes by Tupac featuring Talent from his Greatest Hits album of 1998. Yeah, that's just the way it is.
Things will never be the same.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say. It's a good song.
Where's Mr. Shakur?
In Miami, if you ask my brother.
was gonna say I've never been one to buy into any conspiracy theories or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But even in school, I did a whole presentation on Tupac faking his death.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of reasons to believe that that is real, including randomly changing your moniker to Machiavelli
Yeah.
right before you end up being killed.
Yep.
All the music that's come out since,
I wrote the song in 94.
yes, who would have thought that Eminem would go on to produce a Tupac Shakur album so long after he died?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I've seen.
I wanted to believe that he was still there.
Oh yeah, my brother still does. I've seen the Tupac autopsy photo more times than I want to count. So
It was-
because Logan would try to convince us. Yeah.
It was the people around him that made clear, y'all need to stop asking these questions because he's not here.
Yeah.
I think it was Snoop Dogg talking about it that got me
Hooked.
in the end. That made me realize he's dead. Or he's just sick of being asked the questions. Who knows?
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg smokes a lot of pot, so you'd think he'd mess that up at some point if he knew something.
Yeah. He would have let it slip. I love that people are convinced that Tupac is still alive, but Biggie's dead. Biggie's dead.
Well, I think a lot of people saw him murdered. It was broad daylight, I think, right? Wasn't he walking around? I don't remember how that went down exactly.
I don't either, but I could tell you what was going on with Tupac. Leaving a nightclub. There was his car and then a car behind. See, this is what I'm saying, though. Thanks, Logan.
Riding with Suge Knight in
Suge
Vegas
Knight.
after a fight where they had camera footage of him getting into an
Yes!
altercation with... Yeah.
Coming out the elevator and shit.
Tupac should be a very interesting artist to
Yeah.
cover if we ever get there.
Yeah. What's your last pick?
Last for me is See Emily Play by Pink Floyd. More weirdness here.
Oh, I can't wait.
But this is not exactly my weirdness so much as it is someone else. This song makes me think about my friend Joel. Most people see his fairly normal side, never knowing that if you're alone with this dude all night, you're going to wind up listening to some of the oddest music you've never heard before. And that's exactly how I first heard this song. Seems understandable considering I'm a Pink Floyd fan,
Mm-hmm.
but this is tip of the iceberg. I swear, there have been some moments that no other human being in the history of human beings could ever hope to out-weird when it comes to being around this dude sometimes. I love it, to be clear. If it sounds like I'm complaining, you don't get me at all. We were house-sitting once and wound up in the attic of this house, which neither of us owned, listening to records of shit like Snoopy versus the Red Baron,
Mm-hmm.
while drinking 2 liters of Faygo that were dead-ass just in the attic when we got there. Keep in mind that you couldn't even buy Faygo in Texas at the time. They didn't sell it in stores. No idea where that shit came from. While I'm thinking about it, pretty sure this is the same night we went to a party his cousin Michael was throwing and got to see that dude wig the fuck out because his girlfriend's dog jumped on the bed and licked his ass crack while they were going at it. Tried to go to the bar after that. Wound up chasing an ambulance down 156. Then, when Joel remembered I was too young to get into the bar, he just pissed all over the front door of the bar instead of going inside. And that's my list.
Thanks, Joel.
Some of my personal greatest hits.
Yeah, this is Shane's greatest hits hour.
I don't know that I would call those greatest hits, but
I hope you sense the irony there.
yes. Not going back there again.
Well, okay. That's going to do it
It is.
for our greatest hits special. And I almost knocked over a glass. Thank you so much for joining us.
So if you guys like this, and we'll know whether or not you liked it, depending on whether or not you even pick it up to begin with, then we'll probably continue making them and putting them up on the merch shop. So check back from time to time.
And here's to more fuckery in the future.
Yes. And that's going to do it. Hit up our playlist to hear all the songs we talk about, get our full ratings, t-shirts, and bonus episodes at teespring.com/ratedradio. Guide what we listen to by suggesting new artists for our jam jar. You can even send us voice messages on Facebook for a shot at being on the show. Your support really is what makes or breaks us. So thank you for listening and for sharing. Until next time, fill your world with music.
And here's to more greatest hits to come.